What's going on, guys? What's the deal? Sports Zach Teal back here again with a special episode 10 episode of Cold on the Canvas MMA podcast. We got a fighter on today from a gym that I've been doing a lot of media work with, Webb Fitness and Marquez MMA. We got Kenny Cockerill on. How we doing, Kenny?
What's up, guys? Nice to meet you. Nice to talk with you as well. And I'm really appreciative of this opportunity you're giving me to come on here and speak.
Yeah, and you're exactly the guy that I thought I would be talking to outdoors right now, just the outdoorsman. Can you talk about the correlating lifestyle of being like a hunter like you are and just being in the outdoors and how that kind of translates to what you do inside the octagon?
Absolutely. Outdoors, you have to do what other people will not do in order to be successful in anything. And I carry that within me everywhere in life. Um, as far as hunting and everything else goes, like I live almost like our ancestors used to live. I
Yeah,
like to live off of the land. Kind of. I only eat game that I personally harvest myself. I process it myself. I skin it myself. It only touches one set of hands, and I take a lot of pride in that. And like we were talking about a little bit earlier, I think it brings in another aspect that people do not think about, which is the spirit of the wild.
yeah,
Um, you are what you eat, in my opinion. And you're not going to tell me that eating, a veal that has spent its whole entire life in this little cage is the same thing as eating a deer or an elk that has been outrunning coyotes and bear
yeah.
for its entire life. Like there's
Very
something
primal mindset.
exactly, and there's
Yeah.
something to speak on about that. The spirit of the wild is definitely real.
Would you consider yourself like a BJ Penn kind of guy? Like, do you knock somebody out and lick take some of the blood off the face and lick it a little bit like that too? Or you're not to that exact extent yet?
I mean, we'll have to see. I haven't been lucky enough to see any blood on my gloves yet in my career, but I can definitely see myself doing some weird stuff like that because in those situations, you do things. I don't want to say out of character because it's not out of character; it's who you are. But
Yeah.
one of my old instructors used to say, "Put a man in power or put a man in chaos, and you'll see his true colors." And there's no more powerful feeling than winning a fight in a cage with thousands of people watching you. So, you'll do some things that you didn't expect yourself to do.
For sure. And you have that opportunity and you have that platform because you do fight for Cage Fury Fighting Championships. Shout out to them. Hopefully, this is the second time I'm saying it. They got that job application that I just put in there. Maybe make some content with the guys, meet them in person. But what's getting an opportunity to fight like for an organization like that? And you'll be back in action August 22nd. Can you just speak on that opportunity that you're getting and what you expect from yourself when you step into the octagon in a couple weeks?
Yeah, I've fought for Cage Fury once before, and I really love and appreciate how professional everything is.
Yeah.
They run things basically like the UFC. I mean, I can't speak on that because I've never fought for the UFC, but my
You have a
coaches and
lot of training
everyone
resources that are in the UFC, so you have a pretty
exactly,
close relationship with those guys as well too. So
exactly, and
don't
everyone
downplay
is
yourself a little bit. We all know what's going on with the Webb Fitness
yeah.
and the Marquez MMA guys in the tri-state area.
Exactly. And everyone that has been in both places says it's the same thing. Like it's the same thing. The UFC crowds are a little bit bigger, the music's a little bit louder, lights a little bit brighter. Like it's basically the same thing. And I really appreciate that. Uh for Cage Fury being able to do that. And it's also right in my backyard. Like my whole family is
Yeah,
from South Philly.
yeah.
My
That's what I tell
grandfather.
people a lot. Not to cut you off, but like all of our parents. I was talking about it with one of your coaches, Coach Webb, and we were talking about how us South Jersey guys get lumped into Philly, but I'm 12 minutes out of Philly right now. All those people that say, when I, if say I'm wearing an Aruba shirt right now, which is pretty funny. I just like, thrift stored this or whatever. One of my boys is like has connections out in Aruba, like timeshare. But um, you say you're in Aruba and you meet somebody at the beach and they're like, oh, you try and tell them like, oh, I'm from Washington Township. Oh, I'm from Mullica Hill. They're not going to really know what you're, maybe Mullica Hill just because it's close to Rowan. You know what I mean? But it's like, they're not going to really understand what you're saying. But then you'd be like, oh, well, I'm like from Philly. They're like, oh, we know what Philadelphia is, but we're pretty close. You know what I mean? We're in a pretty close proximity too. And all of our parents pretty much grew up in West and South Philly and just migrated over to like the South Jersey area.
Exactly. And I'm a full-time construction worker. Every day I work in the city. Like my
Yeah.
union contract is for Philadelphia. I work only in Philadelphia.
Oh
I
yeah.
tr- I train in Philly half the time with at Marquez, obviously. But to narrow it down even more, 2300 Swanson Street, that exact location, my grandfather used to have a junkyard there back in the
Oh yeah.
1970s and 80s. And, I could walk I can't walk a block in any direction without like passing a family member's house.
Yeah.
So I hold that spot very close to me. And I think it's awesome that I'm getting the opportunity to compete there again, this time in martial arts or mixed martial arts compared to jujitsu, which I got to do before as well.
It'd be really dope if CFFC. Maybe I can set up the camera work for it, or you got some other good camera guys that make some. I think what is it, JK MMA official
Yep.
does a lot of camera work for you guys. If you could get him or somebody like that to do your walkout for CFFC and have you walk past those and walk into the arena like that, like the Justin Gagey Declaration of Independence that we just saw on the White House card, that'd be sick.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. That would be cool.
For
But
sure, for sure. But you're a really balanced fighter too. A lot of people kind of like, go with their strengths. And we know people that got heavy hands and, people that kind of like to be balanced. We were talking about before. We both were people that lost a bunch of weight from like our high school days back in the day. And we kind of like, have lost that weight from a long period of time ago. But there's guys like Volk who did it, you know what I mean? And became a really successful from being a rugby player to where he's at now, arguably being on the Mount Rushmore of greatest MMA fighters. What does it take to like, go through a moment like that type of stuff, like losing a bunch of weight and then going into the fight? Does it make the weight cuts a little bit easier for you nowadays?
um, I definitely think it makes the weight cut easier because in order to lose that much weight, you have to make a mental switch and a
Yeah,
mental decision. And I remember one day, like, it sounds cliche, but I just decided to stop being fat. Like,
yeah,
I had fat habits. I would eat all day, didn't care what I would eat, and then come home right before I would go to bed. Oh, let me go get a snack and eat another 1,000 calories right before I went to bed.
yeah.
Like I wasn't, I didn't correlate what I was eating with my body for 20 years almost,
And
and
it's
then
so easy to like justify it too. It's like you're drinking like a dairy product. Like say you drink a milkshake, you're like, oh, it's got 40 grams of protein in it. But like, bro, how much fat is in it? You know what I mean? Like the ratio, it could be
exactly,
like, you ever see that Baskin Robbins, not to, put a like specific company's name out there on blast or anything, but like there's companies that have like a 3,500 calorie milkshake. And it's like, bro, that is like 2 times your daily, intake of calories. You know what I mean? You have to put yourself in a caloric deficit to be able to lose the actual weight. So for some people, especially when they cut all the way down, I don't really know how Volk even gets down to 145, but we saw Connor back in the day looking like a straight skeleton on the scale. You know what I mean?
yeah,
We even saw, I brought it up on a couple podcasts ago, where Charles Oliveira, when he fought Justin Gagey, he couldn't even win the belt back and had to vacate the belt because he couldn't get that extra couple pounds off him. And you see some of those guys fighting up at 170 now. So too, what weight do you kind of like stay around? Like, is it a big weight cut for you to get to? And you're fighting at, I saw on your Tapology page, it's like it has you at 180, but you are a middleweight, right?
I'm a welterweight, so
Okay.
I fought at middleweight a couple times back when I started my career
Yeah.
because I did not know anything about weight cutting.
Yeah.
Uh, Two, I also I didn't have the correct people around me to educate myself.
Yeah.
And then once I made the switch to Marquez and I was surrounded by people all different weight classes, it's kind of easy to see where I fit in. I'm a little bit small for a middleweight because you got guys like Joe Pfeiffer at middleweight that make
Oh,
me look
Andre too. Andre's gigantic for 185 as well, like
ex-
massive.
exactly. And then I look at welterweight. If I put in a little bit of effort within like the water cut like everyone else does, then I can 100% make welterweight with ease. I
Yeah.
usually walk around like between 15 and 25 pounds. I float between like 85 and 95 out of camp.
All right, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, and what is it like for you to have the training resources of like a Marquez MMA, where you got dudes from all over. You got like the guys like Nazartine Ruzabayev, who's got 2 million followers on Instagram, has his entire fan base. You got a bunch of foreign fighters who come in. I know the training resources for guys even like from Dagestan, a little bit up more north, like the Iron Academy guys and Dante Rivera, BJJ, who you guys are also cool with too. They were actually I just interviewed Mike O'Brien, who was talking about how Cade was like a big resource for him backstage in his last fight to keep him mentally locked in. And you got, obviously Khabib's coming into New Jersey, arguably the greatest fighter of all time. What's it like having those resources at Marquez MMA and just being able to be in the pool? And it's like you swim with the fishes, and that kind of sounds like you're just being average, but swimming with the fishes, you're more so swimming with the piranhas and the sharks out there.
Exactly. And I'm a big believer in you become who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And or in other words, you're a product of your environment.
Yeah.
And I'm surrounded by people that are dedicating their life and showing up consistently and being role models. They're not necessarily talking about what to do. They're showing me what to do.
Yeah.
That means the world to me. It's a dream come true being able to fight in front of a crowd and everything. But like the real happiness comes showing up every day at the gym and being able to improve daily. Like that brings me joy. Like just this morning, I was doing jujitsu with a dude, and he's trying to do this move, and he's doing it wrong, and then I show him two details, and he's doing it like a black belt. Within 30 seconds, his game just went from here to here, and that happens every single day
and it's just like a big grapevine of everybody's like whisper down the lane. It's not even whisper because you guys are like open about getting everybody better. I posted a video today of me just kind of freestyling on the bags a little bit, and you're in my DMs dropping paragraphs on me. I would have thought it was AI trying to help me out too. So I appreciate you guys because, you guys around this area are really putting the map and, the spotlight on to where, we got dudes from South Jersey really turning up. You know what I mean? We're always repping Philly. Us South Jersey guys are always repping Philly and vice versa. And just the tri-state area in general is just, I would say out of like a 3-state region of anywhere in MMA right now, the hottest region is literally this tri-state area right around here.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
And that's why Cage Fury is in the backyard of it. And that's why, their main focus and obviously their platform, the UFC, when you fight at the Apex, that it's in Nevada and everything, Las Vegas, the pinnacle of like all things in that regard. But, a lot of that stuff is really going around here. And obviously I'm a play-by-play guy for NJ Wrestling. Wrestling doesn't get any better than New Jersey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and look at how many cards Cage Fury is putting out throughout summer.
Yeah.
And any of those cards you could look at has at least one person from my gym competing on it. Like, I love that. I love being able to every weekend watch local fights where you have someone that you can support, that you train with. Like that.
And it's pretty easy and accessible to go get. Like you have it on the UFC Fight Pass. I was doing the numbers. This is episode 10. And I was talking to, like I said, I was talking to Mike O'Brien, my last podcast. And he's like, yeah, I'm the opportunity. I can't fight for the next gen belt because my coach is going to be tied up. But I think I'm going to be getting that opportunity a little bit further down the line. Second episode of Cold on the Canvas was with Cade. Out of 10, I got like on 20% hit rate of dudes fighting for the next gen belt for Cage Fury. Like, to me, that makes me feel dope. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's just really exciting, like what this area is providing and everything, and just having the resources and everything. What was it like, you said, making the switch to, lose that bunch of weight back in the day? Did a moment like that and a scenario that you put yourself in to make that mental switch, did it make things like, committing to being a full-time fighter like you said you did in 2019? Was it easier to make that switch because of moments like that you had already put yourself into?
Yeah, it definitely was. And it really helped out being able to see something in my mind before it was able to be seen.
Have a reference point of it.
Exactly. Like I will watch fights, and I'm sitting there at 300 pounds looking like a pregnant man, and I in my mind I could see myself, like looking like I just cut weight and made weight for a fight, and like that I gotta be grateful that I have the power within my mind to see things before they exist.
For sure. And that's kind of like the David Goggins story. Even Khalil Roundtree was talking about how he was sitting on the couch doing pretty much nothing. And then he's one of the best fighters that has fought for the belt. And that
Yep.
was one of the best fights that I've ever seen. The Poetan fight at 205 for the belt as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Just a bunch of people losing, having correlating stories to the weight cut and then kind of putting it to force and like having no, not saying that you didn't have any direction, but like looking for a direction in life to give themselves an opportunity. And then the ultimate opportunity. There's not too many people that can call themselves an MMA fighter in the world. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the military.
Exactly. And that's another thing that I've realized more recently. Like, we have such a small niche, and once you get involved in it, it becomes your entire life. You forget how many people look at like a cage fighter as like, oh, he must be a terrible violent person, and he must be this, he must be that. Like, we're all just human beings that decide to do something, but this something that we're deciding to do takes over your life. And like, I've realized since I started training, like 99% of my friends are people I train with now. Like,
Yeah.
it takes over, and I kind of enjoy that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, growing up, were you a big like UFC guy? Were you into MMA like really, or kind of more so your first entrance into the game was when you started training?
So that's interesting because I trained martial arts for a long time.
Oh,
I
okay.
started karate at age 3, and I did karate from probably 3 until I was 15. And like, there's pictures and videos. I even did a grappling tournament back in 2009 when I was 9 years old, and I did Naga battle at the beach. But
And that's even tougher too, because that was before, like you talk about niche markets, that was a real niche market. Those dudes
yeah,
that you were probably going against are like some of the best. And we know like Henzo Gracie
yeah,
being, in the vicinity, you're probably getting some of his, students that you're matching up with. You're like, damn, but that also is probably like another thing along with the weight cut is like, I can really do this if I put my
yes.
mind to it.
Yes, and to go off of that, like, I always saw myself being a fighter, but once I hit a certain age, I started to get really good at football, and I started to get a lot of attention, and people would, instead of football just being a fall sport, it would become a spring, summer, fall sport.
Yeah. Everything that you were doing was like in, leading up to that.
Exactly. It would become extracurricular, if you will. And then I kind of leaned away from martial arts for a little bit and just put all my effort into football. Then after I got injured my first game of college football, or second game rather, I got injured. They redshirted me. They kept me out for the year, and then I kind of lost my way. That was my first fall without football. I became super depressed, and my boy was like, "Yo, come try this jujitsu stuff." I was full blown delusional. I was 310 pounds, and I thought like I was the cat's meow. Like, you can't beat me up. I'm 310 pounds. I'm
Yeah.
bigger. I'm bigger than you. I'm a black belt in karate. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I was very mistaken. I
Yeah.
walked into a jujitsu school and had a 54-year-old man named John Hassett, who was my instructor, my first instructor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
he mounted me and was like, "Get away," and I couldn't. And then I mounted him, and he was like, "Don't let me get away." I couldn't do that either. And that was it, man. I started training jujitsu every day. And like, that was when the vision that I always had in my mind really became real, because I could see myself making improvements and making the growth to make that vision real of me being a fighter.
Yeah, that's kind of the same way with me. Like I have trained nowhere near to the extent of you, but I had one stint at Webb Fitness MMA. I'm like, oh, I was tackling NFL players that, getting drafted on like day 2, day 3. I can handle anything. And then I go to the gym and Coach Jonathan's like standing over me. And I'm like, all right, I'm scared shitless right now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I'm nowhere near the savage that I thought I was
Yeah.
before I stepped into this room. So you get humbled really quickly. But then that kind of, for like the people that have those type of mindsets where it's like, I am a little bit scared, but like scared, and then that fear kind of brings you back to that moment. It's like I want to overcome this, and I want to actually turn this into something and see what my potential truly is.
Yeah, absolutely. And uh that's one thing that I think becomes most clear in a fight. Like, in all sports, especially with football, I could speak on the most. it was violent and it was chaotic in the trenches every play, but you had 10 people around you. You know, if you missed your block, if the running back made a good move,
Yeah,
you're okay. No one's gonna know. In fighting, there's no safety boundary like that. Like if you make a mistake and you
yeah,
don't see that punch coming, like you're going to sleep.
yeah,
And I kind of like that pressure, and it's an obsessive thing because your immediate reaction is you want to go away from it. But just like the famous Teddy Atlas speech, like we're firemen, like we're supposed to run into the chaos.
yeah,
Like you don't see firefighters, oh there's a fire, we gotta go. Like nah, there's a fire, we're gonna go stop it and
yeah,
put it out. Same thing with fighters, like there's a fight, we're gonna go win, and we're gonna
yeah.
you know put our will up against the other guy's will.
For sure, for sure. And I think the perfect example, bless you. I think the
Thank you.
perfect example of it is that I watched one of your fights and you were, there was like 3 submission attempts in like the first 2 to 3 minutes of the fight. You just roll through and then you sync up a Darce and it's over. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, you know what the danger that you're getting into, but you're also so technical with your training background and you just trust yourself enough. Like, I'm not, some people completely panic. And I was just talking about it with Mike O'Brien on the last podcast, keep referencing it, but Walter Walker, he's got 6 straight leg lock in the heavyweight
Yeah.
division. And this past one versus Thomas Peterson looked like it wasn't fully even synced in, but he was tapping because he's like, I'm not ripping my knee. I'm not getting my knee
Yeah.
ripped in half. I'm not going to let that happen. And he was caught where they kept barrel rolling, and he's like, I am not letting my knee get ripped and being out of this sport for the next 12 months with an ACL or ligament damage. And he's out. And that's the type of fear that you can instill in somebody if you're that good at your craft. But the thing
Yeah.
about you is also, I saw that 1-2 that I think it was maybe a 1-4 that you landed on that kid and knocked him out completely cold within like 8 seconds. And I was like,
That was
dude,
pretty
this
bad.
this dude is completely all around. That's kind of like, and you were a little bit more so. You kind of like, you say you have the karate background, but you're not as much bouncy. So if you do add the little bounce to it and incorporate that as well too, I'm not trying to tell you how to fight or anything like that, but I feel like you do still have some tricks up your sleeve that you could still work with. So I mean, you're
Definitely.
a very dangerous fighter as well, and hopefully we get to see that full-on showcase August 22nd.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. And like we were saying earlier, like I've only had just a few minutes inside a cage in front of a camera where, like, it matters. The
Yeah,
amount of training that I have done compared to the amount of time I have in a cage is crazy. And I have so many, like you said, tricks up my sleeves, or moves rather, or skills that I have yet to show at all. And
yeah.
that's why I think the more my career progresses, the more people are going to see, like, oh, damn, like this
And that's
guy's.
not even to your fault either. It's I think your one of your fights where that I referenced with the submission with the Darce. It was a Class B next gen fight, so you didn't even have the full arsenal at your tool set. You know what I mean, to be able to
Yeah,
use. So, and that's what people don't understand. You're fighting in 3 minute rounds. There's certain different types of things that you have boundaries, but you're also so smart and in the game and so present of the moment that you're not going to stop the fight from doing something stupid that is going to stop the fight.
exactly. What we do at the gym every day is make that fight just like us going to the gym after work. Like we go there for fun because we love it. When we're in the fight, we don't want it to be like scary, like, panic hitting whatever buttons on a controller, like,
Yeah,
not
just
knowing what
smashing.
to do. Like we're there all the time. So it's really it the cameras, the lights, the crowd, it's all fun. It's great, it's cool. But like at the end of the day, the fight is what we're doing every single day. That is our comfort zone. And my last fight, I can definitely say, like, I was borderline too comfortable. Like
Yeah.
my heart rate did not go up at all. My heart rate went up later on in the night watching my buddy Cade fight.
Yeah,
Like
because you have
I
no control over it. It's yeah, I know
exactly, like
exactly feel you there.
I
Yeah.
knew no matter where that fight went, no matter what submission I got put in, no matter what happened, I was fine
The
because
funniest part is too is like you see Habib coaching too, and he's not known as an animated guy whatsoever in motion. But when you see him coaching Islam in the corner, he's like freaking out, jumping in
Oh
front
my
of
god.
head coach, I forget his name, Mendez. He's jumping in front of Mendez, and
Yep.
he's like not even trying to steal the limelight, but it's like, bro, Habib, you're so famous that everybody's obviously watching you, almost to the point where they're not even watching the fight. But it's like you see how animated people get when they're away from the fight and they're coaching people because they care so much, but know that they can't control anything.
Yep. And it's crazy that you say that because, like, I would always be that dude. Like, I cringe when my coaches are yelling at me. Like, I got this. The time to yell instructions at me was during training camp. Like,
Yeah,
I hate when people yell during fights. But watching my buddies fight, I'm yelling the whole time.
yeah.
I'm yelling out what I see that they may not see, just hoping that they could get that win. So, like, I never judge people for getting too involved
Yeah,
because
for sure. I saw Joe Piper doing it with Joey Milano. I saw
yeah,
Coach Webb doing it with Sean and Joe sometimes as well too. So, and like Coach Webb's like one of the most stoic people from the
yeah.
outside that you'll see. You know what I mean? So that just shows the level of care and the time of preparation that they put in as well too, and how much they care about their fighters. And it's not just somebody trying to make money off you. It's like your success adds success to him, and then grows the entire community.
That's another thing I think we should speak on about the two gyms that I'm involved in is like the coaches between John Marquez and John Webb. They are in it for the love of the game. Like,
Yeah,
if you need them to show up early and show you something, they're there early. If you want them to stay late and show you something, they're staying late. Like, they put us, and I say us as in, like, the fight team before themselves every day. And, like, I think that's one of the coolest things that I have to appreciate because they're full-time coaches. Like, and you saw, like, I love watching the corner video with I believe it's like you might have just referenced it. The two Johns watching
yeah, 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 yeah,
Sean Kimura, Leon
yeah. And
Edwards,
Webb screaming,
like,
"Go, go, go!"
dude,
Yeah,
and as soon as they get the tap, do you see them hug afterwards? Like,
yeah,
that's pure, that's
yeah.
real happiness, and like you
That's
can't
even what
recreate that.
that's what also Manny was talking about too. When I had Manny on, he's like, "Yeah, I trust my coaches so much," and he's like, Sean was telling him backstage, like, "Dude, he backs up this way." I'm like almost like straight up imitating him, like how Manny was telling me. He's like, and Manny's just like almost scary to talk to with how locked in he is. He's like a straight up like killer, you know what I mean? He's like frightening
Yeah.
to talk to, and he's such a nice dude, but he just flips that switch and he's straight killer mode. And he was like, "Yeah, Sean was telling me backstage, I watched the tape. He backs up this way and he does this tendency, and then Manny does the exact technique, and bro's sleeping in 9 seconds. It's like
Yeah.
the most ridiculous thing ever on a short notice fight. You know what I mean? So that's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like,
And that carries us way more than people think. Like, I tell everybody, fighting is a mental game.
yeah,
And when, like, being at Marquez every day and Webb every day, like, you're you're in that chaotic point every day. So the fight just becomes just another day.
yeah,
And having all those dudes around you, like all of our training partners, all of our coaches, everyone around us that, you know, pushes us, and whether they're at the amateur level or in the UFC, like having everyone wanting to get better, it brings so much confidence, and it makes competing so easy.
for sure, for sure. So when you were heavier, just to change the subject up a little bit, what was the worst thing that you had to stay away from cheat wise? Like, what is the actual like when you hopefully get a finish August 22nd? I fully believe that you can make that happen. What's like the first thing that you would like to eat when you leave that octagon?
Well,
You're smiling, so I feel like you're about to give me a very
there's
detailed answer.
yes, there's two answers there because I don't even eat like the way I used to eat back when I was a big back. Like, I was just like, it was crazy. I would every night was something different with desserts. Like, I'm talking ice cream with after cereal with three different cereals in it. Like,
Oh, so you're a cereal guy.
yeah, I don't eat
Okay,
cereal.
all right.
I haven't
Put
eaten
those to
cereal in
bed. You put
5
those to
years
sleep
now.
like you put your opponents to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. But now, after I get this finish, I'm going and getting an all you could eat Japanese buffet. And I
Oh
mean,
man, yeah, that sounds good.
I'm putting that place out of business. I'm a sushi.
You're gonna go on the hibachi grill and it's just you there by yourself, just all socked up.
Sushi's my cheat. I need that once a week, and unfortunately, when I'm fighting, I take a little break for a month. But after that, I'll go put an all-you-can-eat place out of business.
For sure, for sure. Have you ever been to the Amish market down in Malka Hill?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, yeah, that's a place you got to stay away from. Anywhere near your fight
Oh
camp, you
my
got to stay away.
God.
I grew up in Malka Hill, so that's like
That
walking distance to my house. That place is so dangerous. And the worst
yeah.
part is you go into PA too, and it's a little bit further out into like the Amish towns, but they still got another one around there as well. So that place,
Oh, I
is
know.
very dangerous. Very
Incredible.
dangerous.
Last
Almost as
time I
dangerous
went,
as you as a fighter.
yeah, last time they got me, I was cutting weight, and they said we got free ice cream. I said it's free. How could I say no? It's free.
Yeah,
And
freeze
I had
me.
exactly. But yeah, that stuff, and they use real ingredients. That's real food with none of the BS in it.
Apparently, the milk also has it's like breast milk. I'm not sure if that's an actual like true claim. I know you're a real natural guy yourself. You talked about your diet and everything, but I don't know if those claims are true. But apparently, that's what they got in there. So just the
We
natural part, it's almost natural down to the T. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
it is. Yeah, I know. I was getting raw milk off of the Amish, and it was out of this world. Like
Yeah.
my way better than any milk you could find at ShopRite, Acme, Walmart.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, what do you think is one thing in your game that you can work on? Because you do have a lot of mixed martial arts backgrounds. I actually didn't even realize. I mean, that's not really stuff you can find on the internet. It's like you actually training karate, like dating back to like 3 years old, and doing grappling tournaments like at young ages and stuff like that, and really testing yourself. What's one thing in your game? Because you do have finishes via strikes and via submissions. So not too many guys in the amateur scene can say that for themselves. Because I was talking about it with Manny too. Is like usually when people have quick knockouts, like he does, like I mean, there's not too many people that have a 7 and a 9 second knockout with two
No.
different techniques, which is really tough to do. But you're finishing people with submissions and strikes. What's one thing in your game that you do think you can work on?
I definitely think I could work on just my boxing. You know, having the karate style, I developed a lot of kicks, and I use kicks to know my distance from my
Yeah, your
opponent.
range setting.
Yeah, I definitely think I could work on my boxing and my off of the cage wrestling. I feel
Yeah,
like if I get my hands locked around anyone against the cage, they're gonna go down.
yeah.
But I want to have the ability to, time my shots perfectly in the middle of the octagon to where when I could take them down in the middle and them not be able to use the cage to get back
Yeah, and
up.
they can't, have a resource to actually be able to have an explosive movement to actually get themselves back up too. And that's a lot of people, it's kind of tough for you too because you're fighting in a condensed octagon as well as of now. It's not as big as some of like the professional settings as well too. But if you get somebody down in the middle of the octagon, it could be a bad day, especially when you can climb up, get full mount. And I mean, we kind of saw what Sean had Buckley in, just complete absolute misery. You know what I mean? So
Exactly. And I won. I only had one fight so far where ground and pound was legal, and I won it exactly how Sean had Joaquin Buckley.
yeah,
In mount, ground and pound to where you're just not going to get away. I'm going to punch until
pinning arms down, just
I'm
just
tired.
wreaking havoc. Yeah,
Exactly. And that's another thing that people don't understand. Like this next fight, August 22nd, I could finally do that again. So, I could take him down and then rain down ground and pound. But even then, like as soon as we get to the professional level and you can mount someone and instead of dropping a fist, drop an elbow,
yeah.
that changes the game.
That's
That
what I'm saying.
changes
Because now, if
everything.
you flash knock somebody down, the ref's probably going to give it like maybe on this scene, if it's like a class B, maybe they'll stop it real quickly, just depending on the levels of the two fighters. But it's probably pretty hard to flash knock somebody down on the class B level and not follow up with something that is going to knock them out. That's a strike. You know what I mean? That's just like your tendency. That's just how
Yes.
just your natural reaction is going to be.
Yes, and it's funny you say that. You can go back and watch my first ever amateur fight, which I believe was in 2021. I did exactly that. It was 2-minute rounds. In the first round, I hit the kid, his body goes limp and he falls on his back, but he's in guard. he's completely knocked out,
Yeah.
and I can't punch him in the head on the ground. So I just, rain down a couple ground and pound on his belly. And then the next round, he comes out, and you saw what happened the next round. He
Yeah.
went out cold.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think that fight should have went past the first round. I think anyone in their right mind could have looked in his eyes in his corner and saw, like, okay, he's obviously concussed. He should not come out. But that's the rule set makes us do that. I should have been able to finish that fight in the first round.
And you
I
talk about
wasn't.
2 minutes, like, bro, you knocked him out
2
in what,
minutes.
128 seconds? Because it was 8 seconds into the second round. So that's like the fight. That's not even a half of a portion of a professional fight.
Exactly.
Or
Exactly.
it's not even half of the portion of a first round or a round of a professional fight. It's not even a
Yes.
2:30 mark. Like,
Yes. And if you look back at the fight, I think I knocked him out at like 145 of the 15 seconds left. He's laying on his back for 15 seconds. In boxing, that's it. That's a knockout.
yeah,
In
100%.
martial arts, because we can't strike to the head and we can't seal the deal and lick the envelope and finish it, he gets another chance to come out. And then I got to land 3 more shots that were, I don't mean any disrespect, but they were life changers. Like that kid
Yeah.
hasn't fought since. Like that,
Those are career changers. Like, I don't want to fight anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. And I kind of feel passionate about this because that could have been stopped. Had I,
yeah.
one, I wouldn't have gotten, one of the coolest knockouts ever. But two, like that kid's career could have been different if the rule set was different. And I don't think they're protecting many people by not letting ground and pound be legal. Like the
Yeah.
referee is, that's the ref jobs to stop and be like, oh, he's out. But like, to not let me ground and pound and then let him stagger back to his corner and then come out and, go to the shadow realm 8 seconds in, like that's not right. And I
Well,
don't
that's
think
also too the tricky part. I feel like that is too because one of my childhood friends, who was episode 1 of Cold on the Canvas, he had like Keith Peterson reffing his fight. So it's like Keith has been in there with some of the
no,
best of all time. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
but he might have the professional mindset where it's like he might give somebody a little bit more leadway because he, is in the professional setting more often. I know Dominic Cruz is like very passionate about, Keith
yeah,
Peterson and some of like the stoppages of like him. I think I forget which one that Dominic was mad about. I think it was the Henry Cejudo one, or it might have been, I forget which fight it was that he got knocked out, but he was like still a little bit there. But I mean, Dominic Cruz, you got to put him to bed. That's like a
yeah,
22-3 numerous time champion. But there's also, when you're on the regional scene, those guys aren't on that level. You know what I mean? But if you have a
exactly.
professional referee, it's kind of like the in between of like finding the balance where like, yeah, I want to give this guy a shot to, if he gets knocked out, it might discourage him and not want him to fight. But there's also the in between of like, if you let it go a little bit too further, he's going to take damage where it might also not allow him to finish his career.
Yep. And I think that's kind of what we saw. But the rule set, that's a whole nother thing that I have beef with. We should follow a unified system. There's no reason that in
Yeah.
New Jersey I could kick
And
and knee
NJ and
somebody.
PA are so differing like from each other. That's why it's so crazy.
It's ridiculous. And us, I say us as in Webb and Marquez, like we fight in both cities. Like
Yeah.
in May, I fought in Atlantic City. This
Yeah.
next fight, August 22nd, was supposed to be in Atlantic City. Now we have to fight in Philly. And it's all just like headaches that I feel like one unified rule set would simplify things and make things way easier. Like there's no reason it should cost me $200 to fight in Pennsylvania for medicals, but if I want to fight in New Jersey, it costs me $1,000.
Yeah.
What? Come
That's
on, man.
5x. Yeah, that's 5x on it. That makes no
And I
sense.
have to read each rule set. Like it. Why can't we just all follow the same rules? Like, yeah, I don't know.
Does that like with the training for you? So if you're in camp, are you training specifically for that rule set? But when you're adding to the tool shed that you have and you're learning from some of the best, I mean, you got what, the 5th or 6th ranked welterweight in the entire world in the weight class that you fight as a resource. You got dudes that are fighting in like, I mean, you got a dude that's about to fight one of my favorite fighters of all time, MVP. You got Joe Piper, who just knocked out everybody's favorite fighter of all time. You know what I mean? So when you're learning from those dudes, you want to have the professional mindset of like being able to knee to belly people and have those ground strikes. But then you take a fight in a different spot and then you have to like tunnel vision in on that rule set. It probably messes you up a little bit.
It definitely does because I'm not training to be a great amateur fighter. I'm training to
Exactly,
be a great
exactly.
professional fighter. You know, I'm more so like when like right now we're 3 weeks out. Right now I'll make the adjustment to where I'm doing certain things for my fight. You know, I'm not throwing flying knees. I'm obviously not throwing elbows, and I'm gonna chill with the head kicks as well. But like when I'm not in a camp and I'm just training to get better, we're sharpening all of our tools.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah. So it is kind of a headache, but like just the other day I was sparring, or I'm not the other day, before my last fight, I was sparring and I took someone down and my coach is like ground and pound. And I'm like, I can't. And he's like,
Yeah,
oh shit, I forgot. And
yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, you know, it is what it is. We're gonna deal with it and we're just gonna get through it. But it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, for
Big
sure, for
time.
sure. Yeah, and it kind of seems like a little bit limiting, but being able to have yourself a little bit reserved in that sense too also makes you a better fighter because you know what you can do and can't do. And then when you finally do unleash that, there's not really any tape for people to see that coming. You know what I mean? So that's like maybe the
Exactly.
scarier part about it too, is like you can unleash that on somebody. And unless they're listening to the podcast, they might not know that you have that karate background. You know what I mean? So you whip that
Exactly.
out on somebody and they're like, oh, I haven't really seen too many kicks or that. And like, someone just sees a fight on YouTube and they're trying to research you and stuff. I saw what was it, Brandon Royval versus who did Brandon Royval just fight? I forget who it was, and I think it was Loner Kavanaugh, who's like really hot in the 125
Yeah.
division. He said he was subscribed to his email list to how bad he was stalking him, and then ended up beating him, and it was a huge fight. And he just ended up beating Brandon Moreno the fight before. But you know, he's looking at everything. But someone might see your YouTube video of you fighting and they're from like a whole different state or whatever. They don't know the rule set. They're like, oh, this dude doesn't throw kicks. His coach is like, oh, he doesn't throw kicks. He doesn't do this. He
Exactly.
doesn't do that. And it's legal in their state. And then they get into the fight with you, your first professional fight, and you're unleashing on them. They're like, dude, I had no clue any of this was coming.
Exactly. And I feel like you're going to see a lot of that in my career, especially with elbows. And, you know, as I progress my career, like I'm just able to do more and more and more. And I think the further I go, the more I'm able to do, the better I will do.
For sure, for sure. So what is your Mount Rushmore of MMA? You can't say any Marquez active or Webb fitness guys. What is your MMA Mount Rushmore? It doesn't have to be specifically UFC. If I was gonna, you know, be a little bit stereotypical to you right now, I feel like Roy Nelson is somewhere high up on that list for you.
Come on, man. Uh, Big country. Yeah. No, probably not. Because, you know, I think of martial arts, I think of no disrespect to Roy Nelson. He's very
He
fun to
does that
watch.
overhand right is crazy though. He did
But
have
dude,
that crazy overhand right.
there's no reason you're a professional athlete and you look like you just came out of Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. He
Like,
looks like what's that one golfer? The
no
older
idea.
golf. Yeah, I'm not a big golf guy. I forget the one golfer who smokes a bunch of darts and he's like on the golf course, is like 70 years old. And he just looks like he's not supposed to be out there. He's just chipping everything in and everything. He's one of the classic dudes. But that's like kind of Roy Nelson. And he was shorter and fat. So when he does throw the overhand right, it's like connect and flush directly on the chin with all those heavyweights. That was crazy to see. I know a lot of people who kind of fit that billing that are like the heavier set guys that were big UFC fans growing up. Because like I said, I'm Italian and Irish. Obviously, I'm American, go USA, the whole 9 yards. But I am Italian and Irish. And even during Prime Connor, I wasn't really watching the UFC. I think the first like live Connor fight that I watched was the 170-pound with Cowboy Cerrone. But I didn't really watch it growing up. So like mine is a little bit more modern. But what
Yeah.
does your Mount Rushmore look like?
My Mount Rushmore, John Jones at the top.
Oh yeah,
He embodies what it is to be a fighter and a true killer, in my opinion.
yeah, for sure.
Um,
Well, the nastiest knockouts ever was that spinning back kick to Stipe. That was just
he's
insane.
he's one of the nastiest fighters ever. Like
Yeah,
every strike he throws, he wants to hurt you,
yeah.
and you know,
I thought he was going to rip. Cyril's so good. Cyril Gane
oh
is such a
god,
good fighter. I thought he was going to have to rip Cyril's head off his shoulders.
right through him, right through
Didn't
him.
even like he literally had him. He didn't even have him in like a perfect technique. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And he's just. It was kind of like who did he do that to? The standing choke that he hit somebody
Lyoto
with.
Machida.
Dropped him like a dead body. Like that's where people like are like, yo, this is too brutal. Like moments like that, that's like, yo, this is too brutal for me to watch. Like,
And the other thing that makes him so good in my opinion is he was doing all of this at what, 22, 23.
Yeah,
I'm 26 right now. He was a
yeah,
world champion by the time he was my age. That
yeah.
defended it like 2 or 3 times. That blows my mind.
That's
But
what's even crazier about 125 right now is Josh Van taking over 125, and like that division does not get enough love. They were trying to cut that out. There's
oh, I
so many
know.
good 125ers. I just watched Astro Boy, I think his nickname is Steve Ursaw, get put to like viciously put to sleep this past weekend, and you do not see 125ers get completely shut off like that. That was
Yeah,
ridiculous to see. Like those dudes are so wild. That cardio is so insane.
and the pace is wild.
Wild, dude.
It's just like watching two alley cats go
Yeah,
at it.
yeah,
But to go back on the Mount Rushmore, I would have to go John, George St. Pierre,
yeah.
Conor McGregor, because he did more for the sport than anyone as far as
Yeah, they're
entertainment.
straight up trailblazer.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years away from the sport comes back the biggest pay-per-view ever.
Yeah,
Ever.
every time he fights, the biggest pay-per-view ever.
Exactly. And then my next one might be controversial, but I got to throw a two-pack in there, the Diaz brothers, because they are as real as it gets, and that's probably like if out of all martial artists, who do I don't want to say look up to because they're not great role models, but like, who do I connect with the most? It's definitely the Diaz brothers because that not give a fuck attitude. You're not gonna
It's like a
finish
street.
me.
They're like they treat it like they're just walking, like the California streets, and then it's just like, oh, I want to
Yeah,
actually fight now. And then it's like they literally take breaks. Like the Tony fight, he's walking, Nate is
yeah,
walking away. It kind of was sad seeing Nick do that in his last fight, versus what's his name, where he kind of like gave
Robbie
up in the
Lawler.
fight, but it just felt like
Yeah,
he shouldn't have been in that moment to begin with. You know what I mean? But that's how much like
yeah,
warrior spirit that he has to even come out of retirement and put that showcase on. And I feel like the expectations were a little bit too high because you know Nick Diaz is Nick Diaz. You know what I mean? It's like he's
yeah.
like one of
Nah,
those Connor
yeah,
names where it's like you think you're getting OG Nick Diaz or you think you're getting OG Connor. It's like it might be a little bit past the billing of that, but it's like we're
yep.
still all tuning in.
And that's a whole conversation for another time because Nick Diaz got robbed. He got his whole prime stolen over weed,
Yeah,
and
doesn't make any
that's
sense.
something. That's something we can never go back and get that ever again. And what we saw a couple years ago against Robbie Lawler wasn't.
Yeah, it was the Robbie fight. Yeah.
That
You're gonna
wasn't.
talk about two different mindsets too, like the opposite, like the most stoic dude on planet Earth versus like
Yeah,
one of the craziest dudes ever. That was like a match
yeah.
made in heaven.
But like those two guys, they've been around forever. And
Yeah,
Nate, I think he was only finished one time by Josh Thompson head kick, and he didn't even he wasn't even completely finished.
yeah.
Like I view that as like a real fighter. You
And
you're
talk
not
about
going
Prime
out.
Connor up a weight class, and Connor was trying to really fight at 170 the whole time. You know what I mean? Like that was what Connor wanted to do himself. The Cowboy fight when he comes back,
Yep,
it's at 170.
yep.
Connor now, I feel like that fight can be considered a little bit different because Connor is like pretty much a true 170 guy.
Oh, 100%, especially after, hopping on the juice after that leg snap. Like
Yeah,
he is a burly fella now.
yeah,
And like, you know, with all due respect to Connor, what Nate did to him in that first fight was one of the reasons why like I respect Nate so much. Like, he gets the call a week and a half out. Gonna fight the dude who's hot right now. He's burning. He's knocking out everybody.
yeah.
What's he do? He chokes him out in 7 minutes or three
That's like on
rounds.
my
However
Mount
much.
Rushmore. I don't know if he makes my exact Mount Rushmore, but he's like 5 or 6 right outside of there. Kamara Usman does not get enough credit for like he was off the couch
Ah,
10 days on Hamzat and he almost I think he beat Hamzat.
yeah, he definitely does
He
not.
was like a quintessential grappler with no knees or nothing, and then he hit Masvidal so hard that Masvidal's chin touched his shoulder and went to bed immediately. And I was like, dude, after a 50-45, I was like, bro, this is like the Kamaru Usman reign was insane. That was when I feel like that was like everybody's like, oh, UFC doesn't hit the same because we see belts like change so often now between like the overall every weight class, but during that time period where like Izzy was the champ, Usman, Volk, and they were like untouchable, like that was quite the time period.
Oh, it definitely was. It definitely was. And yeah, he definitely doesn't get enough credit, but you know, I think that if there's anyone that doesn't get enough credit at 170, it's our very own Sean Brady.
Oh,
Uh,
100%.
I think he if there's anyone in the division that is going to beat Islam, it's Sean.
Yeah.
and and I think we got to see that sooner rather than later,
Yeah.
because Islam,
The two dudes that he loses to are like, Bilal obviously won the championship, and, Morales is one of the scariest dudes there. I want to see Morales and Prates fight so bad.
yeah, so do I. But Morales doesn't even like that guy. Sean is a really big 170.
Oh
Like
yeah,
Sean,
dude,
Sean
he's
is
like 205 out of camp, dude.
yeah, and when he fought Morales, I couldn't fathom what I was watching on TV. Like Morales was so big, and
Gigantic.
there's no way that he can make that weight cut for you know another 8-9 years. But
Exactly. You
I
saw it
don't
with
know. We'll
Boatan
see.
too. Like when Alex ended up, he was making those massive weight cuts, and he pushes on the gas pedal. I think it's going to be interesting when somebody actually puts Morales in like serious danger, which I think Prates,
So
like on the feet, could actually put Morales in serious danger. And Prates probably walks around at like 182 pounds with 140 of it in his long ass legs. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's why I even see Sean talking about it like on his podcast and everything. Like, dude, everybody's a Carlos Prates fan. You know what I mean? Like, how could you not be a fan of that dude? He's like literally, he doesn't weight bully. He's the most exciting fighter. Even in the Machado Gary fight that he lost, the danger that he had Ian in and that sequence, bro, that was good enough to like, he
yeah,
almost knocked him out.
yeah. And he's got the whole personality too, smoking cigarettes
Smoking
on the
darts,
stage afterwards.
partying, binge
Come on.
partying, the whole 9 yards.
And that's cool. That's what people love, because we're nothing more than just men that decided to do a certain thing. We're all
Yeah.
the same thing. And I feel like when people are able to realize that, it gives them a chance to really connect.
Yeah, it really makes that like independent contractor thing like really work, you know what I mean, too. And then when you have two guys from the same gym that are so highly ranked in weight classes next to each other like that, and so many guys coming up, then that's when everybody takes notice. That's why, like, everybody was a massive City kickboxing fan, even though Izzy just left. But it's like when you got two champions coming from the same gym, and then you got, I know he's not everybody's favorite fighter, but you want to talk about toughness. Dan Hooker, when Dan Hooker just goes out there and breaks every bone in his body every fight just to try and win, it's just like the one fight he breaks his arm, and then he's got Dustin Poirier, and like that one round with Dustin was like one of the craziest striking exchanges of all time, dude.
That's one of my favorite fights ever. You watch that. I think it was at the Apex with no crowd.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You hear the strikes. That fight actually was not a benefit to the sport. That fight actually probably made a bunch of people not want to fight in the MMA because they saw how real that shit is. You know what I mean? They're like, dude, you can hear the strikes. You hear everything. You see the damage. There was a video of like Dustin, I think, like talking to Dan, like when he was getting put into the ambulance and stuff. You're like, dude, this shit is real.
As real as it gets.
Yeah. There's no faking that stuff. So that's what's crazy. But I feel like your genuine personality, obviously, too. You're just being the outdoorsman. Obviously, you got the background, the scenery right now. You connect with nature. I feel like the whole 9 yards. You probably would have liked to CFC or CFFC had that outdoor event in the end of May. And then obviously the UFC White House had the card that they put on. Fighting outdoors, does that have any appeal to you?
Yeah, I would like to do that. It doesn't really appeal like too much, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter the environment inside the cage. Inside the cage is all I'm worried about.
You're not worried about any dry ice from the fog machine, getting involved, just like Connor was just talking about.
Although I did say that I said the same thing. I said, yo, there's no way that much smoke right on the octagon 5 minutes before they're going to fight could have helped.
Oh, well, you see some of the sloppy corner work at times too. And it's like getting people pressed with obviously, trying to stop some of the swelling and some of the ice packs that they put on people. But some of these guys, dude, the one time, I forget which fight it was, Joe Rogan was freaking out about it. The ice bag broke. Ice everywhere inside the octagon, bro. You already got blood that you're slipping on that they try to clean up that's not getting completely cleaned up. And you got so many different things. That canvas has that little type of feel to it. And that's what I was going to say too on the amateur scene is like they have the non-bouncier wrestling mats that you fight on. So it's like I feel like there's just so many differences between the amateur to the professional scene. It makes a lot of sense because like the classification of amateur to professional, but if you're trying to really make that leap, sometimes it gets tough if you don't have the resource at your gym of like a true MMA cage.
Oh, 100%. We just recently got a full size MMA cage at Marquez, and
Yeah.
that's
I saw
I'm
that with the
talking.
Alpo.
Yep, the
Yeah, yeah,
Outpouts hooked us up. And we're lucky enough to have space to do that. 90% of gyms don't have a cage. Like
yeah,
if you look at Peloton, Alex Pajeda, from the last videos I've seen, his where he trains with Glover Teixeira is basically just like a strip mall, like
yeah. It's in
your
Connecticut
normal.
too, right? That's the Connecticut. Yeah,
Yeah, like you walk in the front door, you got 5-6 feet of office space, and then behind it, 40 foot of mat. Like
yeah,
that's where 90% of us started. And I'm lucky enough to be in one of the bigger gyms in our area to where now we have a full size cage and then tons of mat space. And even then, though, like I sparred Wednesday, I ran into people 72 times throughout 5 rounds. Like
yeah.
the MMA scene is growing so fast, and it's amazing.
For sure, for sure. Some people don't even need it though. Like a person that would make my Mount Rushmore, Yuri Prohashka. That dude just needs the outdoors. He just needs to be in the wilderness, posting straight up memes. He's like that. I don't even know. He's like the last, like how Izzy calls himself the last style bender. That dude, he rubs like poison ivy or whatever, chives all over his body to purposely get stung. Like that dude has a completely different mindset, and
Uh,
he's so crazy. He choked out Glover Teixeira,
yeah,
which is so crazy to me. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That just shows you how crazy the sport is.
With all due respect, I'm sorry, Yuri's borderline, like
Yeah, insane.
he's borderline insane. Like what just happened with him and Carlos Ulberg was like, dude, what are you doing? Like
As his
you,
like he's like him and Volk are like my two favorite fighters. Like when Volk got dropped by Islam, then he took all those unnecessary shots because like he had his like knee propped up on his chin and he was just taking shot after shot. I wish that would have ended, but obviously Volk came back and defended the belt at 145 how many times? But Yuri, I mean, that made
like
me
that
so upset. That made me so upset. And I understand where he's coming from, but you can't show mercy inside the cage because no one showed mercy. No one's ever going to show mercy to him. He gets
exactly, and
dropped with a head kick by Alex, and he's getting some of the most vicious ground and pound shots of all time from like the dude that hits like
mhm,
outside of Francis. Who hits harder than Alex Pereira?
Joe Pfeiffer.
Yeah. He doesn't even tape his hands, does he?
No, yeah, listen,
That dude's
Joe.
crazy because he's like, I don't know him personally. He's 20, 30 minutes away from me, South Jersey guy, same age as me. And I hit the bags a little bit with, no tape on my hands too. And I'm just imagining like, dude, Joe Piper's hitting people in the skull like this. Like you are
Oh my
like, that is
god,
a bad, bad day. That is bad, bad. You talk
yeah,
about changing people's careers like you do and making people not want to fight anymore. These are dudes that are like counting on it to, be their profession. And they're like, nah, that's it. I'm done.
yep,
I'm out. I'm
yeah.
not doing this anymore.
He hits different, man, different. They
Yeah,
they
everybody's
they
probably rolling their eyes in the gym. Like, who wants to go with Joe? And like,
yeah, and even
yeah,
Joe.
Sean, you got that one, bro.
Yeah, no disrespect to Joe, but Joe gets on all of us amateur guys like, oh yeah, you sparred me like a pussy. Like, yeah, yeah, sorry, I'm moving away from that right hand of doom the whole
Yeah,
time.
like, dude, he's just his compilation. Like, the UFC has like the compilation of his finishes, bro, and like he can also, you know, when he flattened Izzy out, dude, I was like, dude,
Yeah, you know
when you
what?
can have and like having Dean as a resource as well too, that's even more fuel to the fire. I just can't wait till he gets his opportunity to fight for the championship. And you want to talk about just stuff that doesn't make sense at all. August 15th. Why do we not have our guys on the card? Like,
Ah,
why are the guys not on the card? That does not make any sense whatsoever. And that's
yeah,
not
it's
us guys like from the tri-state area complaining. It literally does not make sense. I know
yeah,
maybe for like Islam and Ian to like figure things out so Sean can actually get a number one contender fight and figure out where he stands in the division, but you can at least give him one of the fights that would get him closer. And then Joe has, I mean, that Seattle performance, Joe has earned his right to put himself in the hat of names that should be next.
yeah. I mean, Joe was supposed to fight on this card, but his opponent broke his rib or something, had an
Yeah.
injury, and both Joe and Sean are at the point now where you can only count who those guys are going to fight on one hand. Like, they're not
Yeah,
going to fight. They're not going to fight down for fun. Like now, it's
yeah, that
about
doesn't make any sense.
you have a certain amount of prime and you have to capitalize on that time within your prime. So that's where they're at
Yeah,
now. It's really unfortunate that they couldn't, be the hometown crowd, but we do have Jeremiah. Jeremiah is, I know he's not much of a big shit talker and, not real loud and everything, but dude, he shows up every day. He,
his hands
he
are ridiculous. I was talking to Joe, episode 1, Joe Coles, my childhood friend. He said he has a permanent scar from training with Jeremiah Wells when he got
yeah,
cracked.
yeah, Jeremiah, I mean, yeah, he
He
shows up
built like
every
that one
day.
Pokemon. Who's that one Pokemon, the Rock dude with those outrageously ripped arms, and he hits you with those hands, and it's like, dude, you're going to bed. Like,
Exactly. And, luckily we'll be able to watch him represent
yeah.
on the 16th. But besides that, it is unfortunate that we don't have more people.
And that would have been quite a fight. That was Caio Barallo that he was supposed to fight Joe, right?
Yeah. And
That
yeah,
made
yeah.
that
And
quick fight.
you spoke about Joe's highlight reel. Believe it or not, Joe is the reason I go to Marquez. Joe met me at a quick shop, like a little cigarette shop. Or he met my mom rather, and my mom recognized him because I watched his Joe's highlight amateur highlight tape
Yeah.
before my first fight. Like, dude, if you watch Joe's,
Oh yeah, I'm friends
if
with Bob Maloney too. He's one
yeah,
of my mentors in the MMA game,
yeah,
and like some of his calls of Joe from back in the
yeah.
day.
So yo, you've seen Joe's extended career, and like that is what pumped me up. That's what got me going for my first fight. But anyway, Joe met my mom and told my mom like, yo, have your son meet me here in a few hours, and I'll take him to the gym. That was my first time ever going to Marquez, and at this point, it was before Joe was in the UFC. It was actually, I'm sorry, not before he was in the UFC. In that little stint before, from when he broke his arm to when
Oh
he
yeah,
got
the
the
Dustin
second
Stuplis fight.
opportunity. Yes, it
Yeah.
was right after the Dustin fight
That's
when
crazy because I interviewed on my play-by-play channel, Han Broadcasting. I interviewed Adam Ferris, who runs Pursuit Fitness, and
yeah.
he said he met right around that same time period. He met Joe at a stoplight too. So Joe's just probably out there with the red hair and everything, not too hard to find. I always say Joe looks like the WWE guy, Sheamus. He's just got that Sheamus belt. And you know, if you get hit with that country power, it's just bedtime. You're going to bed.
What what he was actually doing was driving a drop top Corvette with the license plate body bags, and that's how I knew it was him.
That's crazy. Were you nervous for that moment too? You got like, you know, you're training, you have an extensive background in karate, all these different mixed martial arts, but then you get an offer of like, not doesn't like it sounds sketchy or anything, but you got this dude who's just extremely dangerous, low key. He's like, meet me at this location. You know what I mean? You're like, shit, this dude's got a name to himself, and like, I might have a little bit of nerves going into this situation.
Almost, but believe it or not, the way he came across when we first started, he was so genuine and just looking to help people. I think, um, you know, because of what he was going through at the time, really put him in a position where he needed help from other people, and
Yeah,
that made him help other people. Like he
yeah,
didn't know me from fucking George down the street. Like
yeah,
I was just a kid that trained jujitsu, and he was like, "Yo, come to my gym and like try this out." And he didn't bring me into the spar or nothing. He brought me in the night of drilling. I drilled for a night, and I didn't make the switch until 2.5 years after that. But that seed was planted in my mind,
yeah,
and that from that night on, the only reason I didn't make the switch is because loyalty and I've had a family developed at another martial arts school that I had to uh, become ready to leave, and
yeah,
eventually
exactly.
I
And
did.
sometimes you have to make those tough decisions too. But it's for the betterment of yourself, and then it's not like you cut ties or anything like that. You just got to focus on where your career wants to be, and that's actually the question that I was going to ask you next. What do you want to accomplish in your MMA career?
I want to fight for as long as my body will allow me to fight. I want to push myself as far as I can and test myself as far as I can. Um,
And you also are already in the professional grappling game as well, too, right?
yes, yes, that'll stay on the back burner for a little bit because um, fighting has to take the forefront now.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna. What I see myself doing is fighting, maybe a couple more months as an amateur, making my professional debut next year, and then making my way to the UFC slow and steady,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I believe that's where I belong. I mean, I'm surrounded by people that are there. I belong there as well.
For sure, and you're on a pretty good timeline too. I think you were referencing that knockout. It was at 21 years old, right? That one knockout
21.
that you're
Yeah.
saying. So you've been in the game for a minute. If you say the plans that you just said, that would give you the timeline to go professional before like you turn 27, and then you can give yourself maybe like 18 months. You wouldn't even be 29 years old, and you would have your name in the pool right there for maybe a contender series opportunity, or one of those type of things too. So you never know. You just got
Exactly.
to stay ready at all times, and you never know the opportunity that's going to come up. Like one of your teammates, Christian Bobby, just had a fight canceled because of a weight miss, and then he gets like an even bigger opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now UFC executives are going to be in the building, and there's a lot of hype behind him and everything. So you never know. You just got to stay ready.
Yeah. And that's, one thing that I'll be able to do more with going pro, because, as an amateur, we don't make no money from this. We can't really support ourselves unless we have a giant support system.
Yeah,
And working full time and having to juggle working full time with fighting, like, it's really hard. That's why you only see 5 fights in 6 years for me.
yeah.
Once I make the decision to go pro and I can start getting paid for this and supporting myself off of this, I think you're going to see a much more active fighter.
For sure, for sure. I think you could come up with some pretty good merch too and play into the outdoorsman style. I have Cage shirt, which I just asked him the other day to sign for me. He's going to sign it. I got my little backdrop over here because I talk about a bunch of different sports and produce and host for a bunch of different podcasts and stuff. But I would like to get a little MMA collection. I was actually going to see maybe if I can get some fight shorts or something. But I got Cage shirt. I got one of Manny's shirts. I definitely want to get him to sign that as well. If you come out with any of the merch, you got my support.
Yeah, we'll be coming out with merch very soon, and it should be a partnership between myself and Mossy Oak Camouflage. So
Oh,
it'll
that's
be
dope.
it'll be
That's dope. That
camouflage
plays right
merch.
into it.
Yes, yes,
So
it
you're on the
does.
Bryce Mitchell, and you might have to have some camouflage fighting shorts in your future too.
Oh, definitely camo. First, well, my last 3 fights have been camo fight shorts, but hopefully this next one, an official partnership will be starting with Mossy Oak Camo, because
That's dope. That was
just like
really
this.
yeah, that was really trailblazing too when he did that. When he first started asking for that, everyone was calling him crazy, and then you see everybody has like their own quintessential shorts that are like specifically for them. So that kind of was like a trailblazing moment for Bryce Mitchell, and he's a pretty outspoken dude. But
Yeah.
sometimes it pays off when you're outspoken like that.
Yeah, and camouflage is like a way
Puts
of
you in hunter's
life.
mode, right?
Yes, but it's a way of life. Like, you can't. There's no color you could wear on your shorts that says much about you. When you put camo on your shorts, like, immediately, like, oh, that dude's probably a real American.
Yeah.
He
He's
probably
about to go
hunts.
rogue on me.
Yes, exactly. And I love that, and that's a reason. That's a big reason that I'm looking forward to wearing camo for the rest of my career.
For sure, for sure. All right, I got one last question before we get out of here. It's a pleasure having you on the podcast. What's the playlist look like behind the scenes? Are you listening to a lot of music before the fights?
Before the fights, absolutely. I have a wide range of music. Like, I like love songs. Like, it
I
sounds
was just getting
crazy.
on my boy. I don't know if you know him, Justin Rosario, professional fighter from
Yeah.
Frankie's Gym, Iron Academy, and Dante Rivera,
Yep.
BJJ. And he's, got everybody, all of his teammates listening to Drake, and nobody wants to listen to Drake with the love songs behind them. But he says he's, fully tuned in with the music too.
Yeah.
He was
Not
asking
even.
me what he should listen to or he should walk out to, and I was trying to steer him in a different direction. But he's like, "Nah, I'm Drake focused." I'm like, "All right, bro, do your thing."
Yeah. Not even that kind of love songs. I'm talking like Lana Del Rey, like
Damn.
some real
Katy Perry
passionate. Like,
fireworks.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right, all right. I can
Yeah.
get down to that.
Like, I like getting down to that, but when it's time to push comes to shove, I'm throwing on some classic rock, a little Simple Man by Leonard Skinner, and
Oh
then
yeah,
Godspeed by
Freebird.
Zach Bryan.
Yeah,
Godspeed was one of my walkout songs that I loved. I loved it very, very much. It made me feel it made me feel super comfortable.
yeah, for sure. Get you in that primal mindset that you want to get into. Do you have a specific walkout song picked for this, or is not really something that you're thinking about at the current moment?
No, I actually do have one picked for this, and it's a shout out to Mr. McGregor. We're gonna do it for him, and we're coming out to Wonderwall.
All right, I
I,
got you. That
I
little you
know.
said wide range. You're talking about wide range of music. You're talking about Nate being one of your favorite fighters, but you're tipping the hat to Conor McGregor. So
Yeah, that last thing that we saw in the octagon on July 11th was really rough, man.
yeah,
5 years for one kick to lead to your blown out knee. That's tough, and you know
guys, I went through knee injuries back in the day, like me and you. You know what I mean? That kind of hits home a
exactly,
little bit. Yeah.
exactly, and it did hit home, and actually got the. I left this out earlier, but I was in Vegas in 2021. It was my 21st birthday when Connor snapped his leg against Dustin.
Oh yeah.
And from that moment, I sat in T-Mobile Arena and I was like, I am never coming back here until I'm coming back here on business. And I went home, I stopped drinking, and I took my first amateur MMA fight 2 months after that. And
Damn.
to see him come back and then you know have that happen again, it really, I feel for him, and we're gonna make things happen and get a little redemption for the Irish.
For sure, for sure. All right, brother. Thanks for joining the podcast. Appreciate you having on. Hopefully, we
Brother,
get that
thank you.
finish. And maybe if you got that finish, maybe I'll hook you up with some sushi. Maybe the sushi will be on me. So we definitely got
Oh,
to link
hell
up in
yeah.
person, make some more content and everything. But you're the man. You're exactly what I expected. The outdoors, when you give me like the Kenny the crocodile hunter, like that Steve Irwin vibes, like you're just going out there and just fighting with danger, and you just get right in there and you run right to the fire, first responder style. But you're also the guy that makes the first responders run into the cage because you put people to sleep like that too. So thanks for joining the podcast, brother, and good luck on August 22nd.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me. God bless, and we will talk soon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Peace out, brother.
So-